Hello, welcome to the 2011 NFL Preseason Schedule Week 3 picks. Thanks for tuning in this week. We're going to start on August 25th at 6 o'clock Central Time between Carolina at Cincinnati. The Bengals can hardly wait for the regular season to start because it will signal a fresh beginning and the end of a continuous nightmare. Losing 10 straight games en route to a 4-12 record in 2010 through 2011 was bad enough. But having your franchise quarterback threaten to retire if he wasn't traded was even worse. Jordan Palmer does have good size and arm strength, but what makes him questionable is his decision-making in the pocket. Dan Lefevre is definitely worth developing because of his scrambling ability, but being the number 3 quarterback on the depth chart is already worse enough since Dalton is still dawning at the controls of the most important position on the field. Once Carolina gets Cam Newton settled in, there's still a chance for a quick turnaround of improvement. He is still in the perfect scenario of experimenting because he now has reps with the first team. The team's strengths are a solid offensive line and running game, which gives offensive coordinator Rob Chudzinski a stable platform. Carolina will look to play with the downfield passing game in a Don Coryell-esque system because Cincinnati will show a philosophical consistency among their coaching staff. But one of the assistants they hired as a background with Coryell disciples such as Norv Turner or Mike Martz, and at least allows them to start on the same page. Newton will light up the Cincinnati secondary for at least one touchdown pass as Carolina wins 20-19. On August 25th at 6:30 Central Time, it's Cleveland at Philadelphia. Fans will have a low tolerance policy for a third straight middling season. Holmgren understands that this campaign should be geared toward a run at .500 or better. However, it's asking a lot to make a big jump under a quarterback who only lasted late in the third round last year. Dick Jauron should be able to improve the defensive result as long as Heckert keeps feeding him players. But he will have to tap into every bit of his experience to successfully change to a 4-3 given the lack of depth. The reasonable hope is for the three amigos of Holmgren, Heckert, and Pat Shurmur to forge a solid foundation while trying to get the customers and players to believe something is happening, even if the record is bad again. Philadelphia has a very fast offense. Saleh can get down the middle of the field, and they are always going to be quick. The only bad thing I really see about Philadelphia is that they are a big hit team. They are going to pound you, but they don't have a bruising halfback. That's where I think Green Bay haunted them in the 2011 playoffs. They got into that mode of wanting to pass, and Green Bay wanted to force them to do that. On defense, they don't have a lot of natural pass rushers, but over the last 2 drafts, they have drafted pretty well. That's what I like about their picks. They are trying to find a way to keep it balanced, but I don't think that they have a lot of playmakers on defense. Samuel is a cover corner, but I don't think he's a natural tackler. To me, he's more like a great cover 2 corner that knows how to bait you. But the Eagles will bait the Browns 27-20 on August 25th at 7 o'clock Central Time. It's Washington at Baltimore on ESPN. Washington's defense made a rocky transition to the 3-4 last season, which was the first time the Redskins had ever used that front on a full-time basis. They lacked the personnel to be more effective at times, which limited defensive coordinator Jim Haslett's plan of a mysterious hypocrisy. He wanted to trick the offense through alignments and with sets that included 6 linebackers on the field. Now, even though it has been ineffective during this preseason, Haslett will still blitz anyone because the team was not able to pressure without this tactic last year. Regardless of who the running back is, Shanahan is great at getting the team to run the football. The one thing he has to address, though, is the defense. Otherwise, if he can address it, then Washington could be clicking on all cylinders once the regular season comes around. It's still hard to believe that his offense is still trying to make things work even with 5 or 6 Pro Bowlers who ran it last year. Quarterback Joe Flacco has seen increases in each of his first 3 seasons as a pro. A 500-yard, 5-touchdown breakout preseason is the next step. Harbaugh is old school. He wants to run the ball and choke the life out of your offense by playing great defense and winning the field position battle with that defense. He isn't afraid to take risks, and he likes to challenge his interior line in short yardage situations. It looks like Washington's defense will be tangled in a chokehold. Ravens 33, Redskins 22. On August 26th at 7 o'clock Central Time on CBS, it's Green Bay at Indianapolis. The outside portion of the Indianapolis pass rush will be bolstered only if Jerry Hughes improves in his second season. Last year he was a non-factor as a rookie, finishing with just 6 tackles and 0 sacks in limited participation. If Indianapolis wants to win a preseason game for once, they will need to revolve around a stronger commitment to the running game, which with 393 rushes total last year was 4th fewest in the league. With Curtis Painter heading into his 3rd season and having few opportunities to produce, look for the Colts to struggle mightily in unfavorable conditions. Meanwhile, as a Minnesotan, I am very flustered to always talk about the Packers' talent, which is to make all other opponents green with envy. McCarthy will look to take some pressure off of Rodgers with a better running game, especially given the 2 concussions that he suffered last year. But he also doesn't want to take decision-making out of Rodgers' hands and will continue to let him read the defense's pre-snap look to determine the best play. Behind Rodgers, Matt Flynn proved that he can be very capable of playing at a high level. In a victory over Arizona last week and a near victory at New England late last year, Green Bay is lucky to keep him around because they feel that they can win with him even if Rodgers suddenly goes down. Of course, that even won't happen this preseason, but you get the point anyway. Packers 29, Colts 16. On August 26th at 7 o'clock Central Time, it's St. Louis at Kansas City. During this preseason, Todd Haley has proven to the whole entire world that he just can't follow the book when he makes game day decisions. Kansas City will insipidly and frequently try to convert on 4th downs in unconventional situations. Now, even though this didn't happen last week, I wouldn't be surprised if he attempts an onside kick in a situation that doesn't even call for it. It's hard to say if that will at all happen this week. But if it does, don't say to me that I didn't warn you in the first place. The Chiefs will look like such a dismal team with an inferior record. If the Chiefs want to handle anyone on a weekly basis and also want to challenge for a playoff spot once again, they will need to prove that they can compete against the league's better and rising teams. Otherwise, I would look for Steven Jackson to finish in the NFL's top 3 for carries in this preseason, especially since he can handle another season at the age of 28. Bradford has looked more mentored well by offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels. Bradford is already looking like he is up to speed with the new offensive system and the young personnel. The defense will look to break the Chiefs dead too. Rams 28, Chiefs 5. On August 27th at 6 o'clock Central Time, it's Jacksonville at Buffalo. Despite finishing in the bottom 8 of the NFL in yards gained for an 8th consecutive season, the Bills' offense was finally palatable as Gailey got the most out of the talent. With the players having a year to absorb his system, Gailey is expected to expand his playbook in 2011 through 2012. He prefers a balanced offense, but the passing game was the team's strength, so he emphasized it more. Look for him to get more out of the running game this season. Speaking of that running game, Spiller is obviously not built as the pound and down back, but the speedster is capable of big plays every time he touches the ball. If Gailey follows through on his promise to use Spiller's skills as a runner and a receiver more often in 2011 through 2012, the results should be electric, especially over a Jacksonville defense that has been a serious problem for the past 3 years. The team's league ranking dropped from 23rd in 2008 to a franchise-worst 28th last season, in which the Jaguars allowed a team record 419 points. Jacksonville also tied for last in the NFL with only 18 takeaways. I don't know about you, but to me, that sounds like a recipe for disaster as the Bills will prowl over the Jaguars 39-13. On August 27th at 6 o'clock Central Time, it's the Jets of New York at the Giants of New York. The Jets made it very clear during the offseason that re-signing Holmes was their first priority because he opens up a lot of things offensively. Sanchez started hitting his groove more often when he was comfortable in the offense last week. It is time for him to be a difference maker because he has relied on the talent around him up to this point. Now he should be ready to manipulate the offensive-defensive schemes presented to manufacture more points. As all of you know, Coughlin is a disciplinarian who has adapted with the times and allowed his players more of a say in some team operations. He has lightened up inside the locker room but remains a no-nonsense coach. He has a huge say in the offensive approach and game plan, but allows his offensive coordinator to call the plays. Coughlin is more likely to put the ball away and play defense rather than go for it on fourth down. He is also not a big believer in gadget plays or surprise onside kicks. So what's not to like in him? All these words and characteristics that I've put into perspective should provide an interesting shootout. You can jabber at me all you want if you really think I'm crazy about what I will predict in this matchup. Giants 59, Jets 56. On August 27th at 6:30 Central Time, it's Atlanta at Pittsburgh. Atlanta needs to address the problems of how the team has been trying to get a pass rush on the opposite side of John Abraham. The inability to sack Drew Brees cost the Falcons late in Week 16, and they couldn't wrestle Green Bay's Aaron Rodgers down to the ground as he torched their secondary in the divisional playoffs. Atlanta has selected 3 defensive ends over the last 5 drafts in Anderson, Bierman, and Sidbury, but none have made major impacts so far. That's good news for Pittsburgh, considering the fact that Roethlisberger's on-field performance in 2010 through 2011 was arguably the best of his career. His command of the offense and understanding of opposing defenses is one of the reasons why he threw a career-low 5 interceptions during the regular season, well, even though he did throw 4 interceptions in the final 2 postseason games. Roethlisberger's greatest strength is his ability to make plays out of the pocket. Overall, Pittsburgh has the best set of quarterbacks in the NFL, but it seems unlikely that they will carry all 4 on the roster. The odd man out would appear to be veteran Charlie Batch, with Byron Leftwich the primary backup and Dennis Dixon at number 3. But no matter what, I will expect 2 of the quarterbacks to throw for 2 touchdowns, while the other 2 will throw for just 1. Steelers 42, Falcons 17. On August 27th at 6:30 Central Time, it's Miami at Tampa Bay. Easily one of the most polarizing debates in the South Florida sports scene is the divide regarding Chad Henne's play. At times he flashes the skill and swagger that makes him look like a budding star. But more often rather than not, especially towards the end of 2010 through 2011, Henne's depleted confidence steered him into the type of boneheaded mistakes that fueled wide receiver Brandon Marshall's eventual disapproval. Unless Henne can regain his confidence while also figuring out a way to manage the huddle despite Marshall's constant complaints, Miami's offense could find itself in another bad spot. Henne threw too many interceptions, 19, and few touchdowns, 15, to give him any leverage with the coaching staff, but it shouldn't all fall on him. If Henne is ever going to reach his potential, the Dolphins are going to need to surround him with dynamic weapons and a more multi-dimensional offense. Otherwise, Henne won't be the only one looking for a new job next year. Sperano could likely be joining him if these things continue to not work their way at all. Everyone around the NFL knows that there's only one thing that's going to make anyone forget the Dolphins' off-season dysfunction: winning! And unfortunately for Miami, that task isn't going to be easy, and the always competitive Tampa Bay Buccaneers were hoping to either match last season's record or improve on it. Tampa Bay's offense is coming together nicely under quarterback Josh Freeman, and head coach Raheem Morris can start feeling better about his defense. Buccaneers 32, Dolphins 10. On August 27th at 7 o'clock Central Time, it's Houston at San Francisco. Wide receiver Michael Crabtree did not flourish in his second season after an impressive rookie campaign. He missed a second straight preseason, this time with a neck injury, and his lack of chemistry with Smith in the pocket was evident early on. Crabtree has the potential to shine in Harbaugh's West Coast system, but must put in the required time. The 49ers also need wide receivers Josh Morgan, Ted Ginn, Dominique Ziegler, Kyle Williams, and Kevin Jurovich to make a big impact this season, much bigger than last season. Morgan, the team's strongest wideout, has been the number 2 wide receiver in recent years, but played a bigger part in the running game than the passing attack, both of which were 18th and 19th in the statistical rankings last year. Barring an injury to Schaub, Houston should have one of the NFL's best offenses for a third consecutive season. This is Schaub's 5th year in Kubiak's system, so the key is how much improvement the defense can make under Phillips, especially considering the transition to a 3-4 scheme. A healthy Williams and Baldwin and the additions of Watt and Reed should allow the pass rush to improve. With a veteran defensive coordinator who understands coverage, not to mention a better pass rush, expect the defensive backs to cover better than last season when collectively they were the worst in the league. If that happens, Houston could become a legitimate playoff contender. Texans 20, 49ers 14. On August 27th at 7 o'clock Central Time on CBS, it's New England at Detroit. Detroit has a lot of elite weapons on their offense, with quarterback Matthew Stafford, wide receiver Calvin Johnson, and running back Javid Best can also dominate with its defensive linemen. Sue is the one rookie that had a greater impact than all rookies combined last year. He bonds and makes his teammates the best that they can be. The Silver Crush looks like a great defensive line on paper. So far, the sky's the limit. They want to move past that stigma, but when he's not on the field, it hurts like hell for the Lions. He wants more wins than individual power rankings. Another one of the most undersung players is Vanden Bosch. Anything less than what is set for him won't be accepted. Hill is the capable backup with a good arm and a lot of moxie. Hill has proven that he can win some games, and Stanton proved by leaps and bounds last year as he appears to be the number 3 quarterback. But due to injuries, the Lions haven't put the package quite together. But this season could be a big leap in that direction. Still, the Lions need more consistency to make a move in the competitive NFC North. But make no mistake, these baby steps are taking them out of the laughingstock basement. For New England, Belichick is entering his 12th season and will look to maximize on all the opportunities that he still has left in himself. I will expect Hainsworth to return back into the way he was when he was with Tennessee a few years ago. New England will meet their very first test in the preseason, but they will claw away and fight to the death in a Brian Hoyer touchdown run. Patriots 35, Lions 34. On August 27th at 7 o'clock Central Time, it's Chicago at Tennessee. Could you tell from Monday Night Football that a key piece to the Bears' success was missing? Oh yeah, I did, of course. Center Olin Kreutz was the one locker room leader that was taken away from their success. It will take a collective effort out of everyone to be a leader now that he has gone in New Orleans. The center gets things going because of the continuity in the middle of the offensive line. I understand that the Barbarian is a hard running back and will help out tremendously, but the Bears are not going anywhere if Cutler even throws another interception in the red zone. Go figure. They only scored on 45% of their red zone plays, In Tennessee, I'm not expecting a lot of things to change with new head coach Mike Munchak. They will still try to play. They will obviously still try to play you hard and physical smash mouth football on both sides of the ball, but make no mistake, running back Chris Johnson is the one player who stands out the most. He's a dangerous weapon who runs behind one of the best offensive lines in football, and for him not to show up to camp makes him look like a coward. But I'll give the edge to Tennessee anyway. Titans 13, Bears 12. On August 27th at 7 o'clock Central Time, it's Dallas and Minnesota. So Dallas is looking for an impact linebacker to play opposite of Ware, who led the NFL with 15.5 sacks last season. A year after Spencer seemed poised for a breakout campaign, he regressed. Dallas figured with as many double teams as Ware receives that Spencer would have 10 sacks in 2010 through 2011. But that number ended up being cut in half. Williams and Butler are both entering their third seasons, which means it's time for more production. Butler has 5 career sacks in very limited opportunities, so Garrett is already figuring out that he might be worth a longer look during this preseason. Otherwise, he will have to cut him. As McNabb knows this defense well enough through his Philadelphia and Washington days, he will look to take the pressure off himself. He has been semi-retired in Philadelphia, but now McNabb should be all about business. The Vikings are back. He will slim down mentally and get serious about playing for Minnesota because the Vikings want to see where his head is at. There are many ways of learning from the Washington experience because it was more of a Shanahan problem than it was McNabb's. Shanahan has had the tools before to find a proven veteran to play for his teams, but he never let them take the time to gel in his system, which explains why he still hasn't had a Super Bowl reign ever since Elway retired. This is McNabb's final pit stop, without question, as the Vikings will open up with a new roof, look for McNabb to open up with almost a 100% passer rating. Simply so with the fact that he has a 96.3 passer rating indoors during his whole entire career. I will expect McNabb to throw and run for a touchdown versus a Dallas defense that has always been in and out, no matter what. Vikings 34, Cowboys 21. On August 27th at 8 o'clock Central Time, it's Seattle at Denver. The incontinuity along Seattle's offensive line over the past 2 seasons can be attributed to 7 different players starting at left tackle ever since Jones suffered a career-ending knee injury in November of 2008. While Okun is the long-term answer at that position, he was slowed by injuries to both ankles in 2010 through 2011 and was never able to produce at 100% in his rookie season. Seattle used 10 different offensive line combinations last season, and after all that tinkering, Okun and center Max Unger are the only 2 guaranteed starters in 2011 through 2012, with a pair of rookies likely to compose the right side of the line. Denver is solid, but not yet spectacular from the play of left defensive end Robert Ayers. I will look for him to be a physical force on the edge, regardless of the personal additions, and he will look to rip up an improving Jackson and Whitehurst for a sack and a fumble. Meanwhile, speedy Wesley Woodyard will be a situational player and look to attribute for 1 interception as he will help out on the passing downs. And I would also look for Von Miller, the number 2 overall draft pick, to be a pass rushing force at that strong side linebacker position, especially since he is complemented by Dumerville on the other side. They will be tasked with solving one of Denver's chief issues in recent years, locating a consistent defender against the pass and opposing tight ends. Fox has made it clear from first time that athleticism and speed was the top priority to be a top linebacker, and by saying that, the Seahawks are going to have their hands full. Broncos 31, Seahawks 13. On August 27th at 9 o'clock Central Time, it's San Diego at Arizona. A key piece to San Diego's defensive line rotation is Von Martin, who came out of the Canadian college rankings 2 years ago and should be ready to return to his flawless skills, which will turn into impactful plays. That's bad news for an Arizona offensive line that took a lot of heat last season, but the coaches were not as displeased as the fans. The offensive line would have looked much better with competent quarterback play. However, it is very hard to say what this group has been looking like so far in 2011 through 2012. The outside will appear the same with Brown and Keith returning at tackles. Two sloppy veterans, Bridges and Hannock, served as backups last season, but if they become starters, the team has very little depth to add. Brown, the 5th overall pick in 2007, has started every single game since his rookie year, but hasn't been the dominant force he was expected to be coming out of college. The Cardinals need him to become a more reliable pass blocker. Otherwise, if he can't become a reliable pass blocker, then Arizona will not be in contention for the NFC West Division crown this year, as they are still discovering a passing game that has still not been totally effective. If their passing game can't be effective, then they will have to turn to their defense at all times, since the running game won't be much help either. Chargers 40, Cardinals 8. Finally, concluding Week 3 of the 2011 NFL preseason schedule, it's New Orleans at Oakland at 7 o'clock Central Time on NBC, Sunday Night Football. The Saints secondary collapsed in the loss last week at Houston, and also don't forget that they also collapsed in the wild card playoff loss at Seattle too, which was disappointing considering the fact that how well they played all year long. The secondary still remains a strength, however, and Williams is one of the league's most creative coordinators on defense. The goal in 2011 through 2012 will be to develop a more consistent pass rush and also force more turnovers like New Orleans did in 2009 through 2010 en route to their Super Bowl championship run. The Saints got off to a good start by signing disruptive defensive tackle Shaun Rogers through free agency, then adding defensive end Cameron Jordan and linebacker Martez Wilson in the draft. I know that the Raiders have still presented plenty of flaws during this preseason, but let's not forget that even though they are still searching for a number 1 wide receiver, Shillings is the most likely candidate because, given his size, speed, and strength, he provides the purest hands for precision route running. The tight end, Miller, still has the knack for getting wide open and making the tough catch while coming up big in crucial situations. Third-year pro Hayward Bay is still making strides while improving his production, and draftees Moore and Osbury give Oakland other options as potential playmakers for their wide receiving core. Do I expect there to be brawls in the stands? Absolutely not. But do I expect Oakland to return to their badass rituals on the field? You bet I would, because 2 of these wide receivers will catch a touchdown as the Raiders will cruise over the Saints 18-17. So that concludes it. Thanks for tuning in this week to my 2011 NFL preseason schedule, Week 3 picks. Enjoy the week, folks.